Have you ever felt it? A sense of invisible walls around your life. A feeling that you are living within a system, a structure that was built long before you were born. You follow the rules, you mark the passage of time, you chase the goals you were told to chase. But a part of you, a deep, silent part, knows there is something more. A reality beyond the box you live in. For millennia, the wise, the initiated, and the secret keepers of our world have encoded this feeling into a single, terrifyingly simple symbol. It appears in the holiest sites of religion, in the sterile logos of global corporations, in the cold monoliths of modern art, and in the darkest corners of occult lore. It is a shape of perfect stability, and for that reason it is the perfect prison. They call it the Black Cube, and it is inextricably linked to the oldest, slowest, and most feared of the ancient gods, Saturn. Stay with us as we unlock the complete story behind the Black Cube of Saturn. This is not just a journey into history or mythology. This is a journey into the very architecture of your reality. And what you are about to learn is something every spiritual seeker, every truth teller, and every soul that feels trapped by the modern world must know.
Welcome to Secrets of the Ancients, where ancient mysteries awaken.
To truly understand the Black Cube, we have to strip away the color, the mystery, even the terror. We have to begin with its bare-bones essence, the cube itself. In the world of sacred geometry, no shape is an accident. Every line, every angle, every face is a letter in the alphabet of creation. And the cube is perhaps the most foundational word in that cosmic language. At first glance, it looks simple, almost mundane. A solid with 6 equal sides, all at right angles. It's the shape of a child's block, a cardboard box. But the ancient Hermetic wisdom teaches, as above, so below. The simplicity of the cube here on Earth mirrors a profound spiritual symbolism that resonates across cultures and dimensions. It represents structure, stability, and the material world itself. It is the very architecture of form. What is fixed, solid, and seemingly unchanging in a universe defined by constant flux and impermanence. While everything else flows, the cube stands as a monument to order. In esoteric thought, geometry isn't just the dry mathematics you remember from school, it's metaphysics. It's the blueprint of reality. If the circle, with its endless, unbroken line, symbolizes the boundless spirit, the ethereal, and the divine, then the square, and its 3D expression, the cube, symbolizes its polar opposite. Its limitation, its boundaries, it's the unyielding physics of the material universe. It is, quite literally, the box into which the infinite human soul is placed upon incarnation. When spirit descends into matter, it descends into the cube, into a world of form and density. And in doing so, it forgets its true, limitless nature. Think of it this way. Imagine your consciousness before birth as a vast, boundless ocean of light. It has no shape, no name, no past, no future. It simply is. Then, at the moment of incarnation, a tiny vessel is dipped into that ocean. That vessel is the body, the ego, the life you're given. The vessel has a specific shape and specific properties. It is the cube. The water inside the vessel is still part of the ocean, but it has forgotten. It now believes it is the vessel. It takes on the shape of its container. This is the first and most profound trick of the cube. It convinces the spirit that the prison is the self. Ancient mystery schools, from the Hermeticists of Egypt to the Pythagoreans of Greece, understood this. They knew that if you unfolded a cube, laying its 6 faces flat, it forms a cross. This wasn't just a mathematical curiosity. It was a profound spiritual message hidden in plain sight. The cross, a universal symbol of suffering, sacrifice, and the intersection of the divine and the material, emerges directly from the cube. This suggests that the journey through the material world, the experience of being in the box, inevitably involves struggle, but it also contains the seed of redemption and resurrection. The very act of mentally unfolding the cube mirrors the spiritual path. You have to take apart the structure that traps the soul in order to understand and transcend it. The cube also symbolizes the totality of the known world. Its 6 faces correspond to the 4 cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west, along with above and below. It encompasses all of manifest space. To the ancient mind, the cube was a microcosm of creation itself. Everything within the cube was measurable, knowable, and subject to time. Everything outside of it was the infinite, the mysterious, the unknowable. Thus, the cube became a powerful metaphor for the very boundaries of human perception. Now let's add the color. When the cube becomes black, it takes on an entirely new and far more potent level of meaning. Black isn't just a color, it's a state of being. It's the color of mystery, the hidden, the great void from which all things emerge and to which all things return. It is the color of the unknown, the womb of creation, and the finality of the grave. A black cube, therefore, becomes the ultimate symbol of concealed knowledge, of truth hidden within form, of spirit trapped in matter. It represents the prison of the soul, caught in the grand illusion of separateness, time, and materiality. This isn't just theory. In the mystical Jewish tradition of Kabbalah, the cube corresponds to Malkuth, the kingdom. This is the final sphere on the tree of life, representing the physical plane. Malkuth is the densest aspect of reality, yet it's essential for spiritual realization. Without the grounding and the challenge of limitation, the soul cannot evolve. So even here, the cube is not just a trap, it is a stage. It is the necessary environment for growth. Let's journey east to the yogic and tantric traditions. Here, the cube is associated with the very foundation of our energetic body, the root chakra or Muladhara. This chakra governs survival, grounding, and our connection to the earth. It's the energetic foundation upon which all other spiritual development is built. When it's out of balance, it creates fear and material obsession. When balanced, it provides a secure foundation from which we can ascend. Again, the cube appears not as an enemy, but as a fundamental part of the journey. There is a story of an ancient master sculptor known for his breathtaking statues. A young apprentice, eager to learn, was led not to a gallery, but to a dusty courtyard filled with enormous, perfect cubes of marble. "Master," the apprentice said, "I came to learn how to carve angels. All I see are boxes." The old master smiled and ran his hand over a cube. "You are looking at them," he said. "You see a box. I see a prison. My job is not to create the angel. The angel is already inside. My job is simply to chip away the prison until the captive is set free." This is the secret of the cube. We are all born with divine potential, but it's trapped within the dense stone of our conditioning, our fears, and our ego. The spiritual path isn't about adding anything to ourselves. It is the art of subtraction. It is the slow, patient work of chipping away at the walls of the cube until the angel within is revealed. In the end, the black cube is not something outside of us. It is within us. It is the ego, the body, the karma we carry, but it is also the key to our own liberation. Because only by consciously entering it, by exploring its every corner, can we transform it from a tomb into a temple. To truly comprehend the black cube, you must dare to understand its architect. Saturn, not just a planet, but an ancient god, a mythic archetype, a metaphysical force governing the most profound aspects of our existence. In astrology and mythology, Saturn is synonymous with time, restriction, discipline, karma, aging, and death. He is the slowest of the visible planets, and his deliberate pace gave the ancients a sense of immense, ponderous authority. He is the great teacher, but his lessons are hard-won, molding the soul through the pressure of limitation and the necessity of endurance. In Roman mythology, Saturn ruled over a mythical golden age of peace and abundance. Yet this came with a terrifying price. Saturn, or Kronos as the Greeks knew him, was also the devourer of his own children. Fearing a prophecy that he would be overthrown, he swallowed them whole. This dark myth perfectly reflects Saturn's dual nature. He creates and destroys, nurtures and imprisons. He represents the inescapable cycles of life and the cold reality that nothing in this physical world is permanent. From a modern psychological perspective, particularly in Jungian terms, Saturn is the archetype of the senex, the wise old man. But he can also be the rigid, authoritarian father. When this archetype is balanced within us, he is the patient teacher, the mentor. When distorted, he becomes the tyrant, the inner critic who crushes spontaneity and joy. The Black Cube, in this sense, becomes a Saturnian prison, a psychological structure that restricts, but also shapes. It's only through this immense pressure that the raw carbon of the self is refined into a diamond. Astrologically, Saturn is often called the Great Malefic. His transits in a person's life often bring delays, obstacles, and deep existential lessons. But these difficulties are never pointless. They are how the soul is purified. Saturn strips away illusions, false identities, and childish dreams. He demands that we face reality, take responsibility, and grow up. He looks us in the eye and asks the soul-shattering question: are you truly prepared to carry the weight of your own destiny? The Black Cube is this very challenge made manifest. This brings us to one of Saturn's most profound domains, karma. In both Eastern and Western thought, karma is the law of cause and effect. Saturn is the planetary guardian of this law, the cosmic accountant who ensures that nothing is forgotten. Every choice, every act of integrity or betrayal is recorded in Saturn's great ledger. The Black Cube, then, can be seen as a karmic container, heavy with the weight of our unresolved spiritual history. In the mystical art of alchemy, Saturn represents lead, the densest, darkest metal, the prima materia from which spiritual gold must be transmuted. The process of working with Saturn is the nigredo, or the blackening, a dark night of the soul where the ego collapses and illusions are shattered. This phase is symbolically identical to being trapped inside the Black Cube. It is cold, isolating, and suffocating, but it is absolutely essential for transformation. Consider the parable of a young, arrogant prince, heir to a kingdom but unfit to rule. His wise father, the king, summons him not to the throne but to the deepest dungeon, a cell shaped like a perfect cube of black iron. "You will be released when you are ready to be king," he declares. The prince rages, then despairs. Alone in the darkness, stripped of everything, he is forced to confront himself for the first time. This is his nigredo. But after what feels like an eternity, something shifts. He stops fighting the walls and begins to listen to the silence. He realizes the prison was a gift, the only place he could discover who he truly is. When the door finally opens a year later, the boy who entered emerges a king, his eyes burning with a quiet, unshakable strength. This is Saturn's purpose. His restrictions are not meant to destroy us, but to forge us. He is the cosmic blacksmith, and the soul is his raw iron. If you resist, you suffer. If you endure, you become stronger, wiser, and more conscious. You begin to see the Black Cube not as a tomb, but as a womb, a sacred container in which your higher self is gestating. There is a final, stunning paradox here. While Saturn is the god of time and limitation, he is also the gatekeeper to eternity. In many mystical traditions, he guards the final threshold. If the soul has not resolved its karma, Saturn bars the gate. But if the soul has been purified through trial and self-knowledge, then Saturn steps aside. The gate opens. The cube dissolves. The soul is no longer trapped. So when we speak of the Black Cube of Saturn, we are speaking of an initiatory force that touches every human life. To ignore Saturn is to remain a prisoner, calling your cage fate. To confront him, to understand him, and to integrate his lessons is to step into true mastery. Long before telescopes, ancient civilizations looked to the heavens and saw power. Among the celestial gods, Saturn held a special, often fearsome place. He was not just a ball of gas. He was a ruler, a judge, and sometimes a devourer. In ancient Mesopotamia, Saturn was associated with Ninurta, a deity of war, agriculture, and judgment who brought order through strength. The Babylonians called the planet Kayamanu, the steady one, for its slow, deliberate movement across the sky, a sign not of weakness, but of immense cosmic authority. In Egypt, Saturn was identified with the creator god Ptah, a deity of architects, craftsmen, and time. Ptah embodied the Saturnian principle of structuring chaos into form. This energy was felt in the meticulous, mathematical precision used to build the pyramids and temples, acts of spiritual architecture designed to preserve truth through the ages. The cube, representing perfect form and stability, was a revered structure in Egyptian design. Across the Mediterranean, the Phoenicians worshipped a skyfather god named El. A stern but wise ruler, El bore many similarities to Saturn. The connection becomes even more intriguing when you consider that the name El later evolved into the biblical Elohim, one of the first names for God in the Hebrew texts, giving Saturn's legacy a subtle but profound entry into Western monotheistic tradition. But it was in the Greco-Roman world that Saturn's personality became more defined and feared. The Greeks called him Kronos, the titan who devoured his children to prevent his own overthrow. The myth is a brutal allegory. Time consumes all things, but on a deeper level, it represents a static consciousness trying to halt progress. His eventual overthrow by Zeus, Jupiter, symbolizes the triumph of dynamic consciousness over the grinding wheel of fate. The Romans inherited this figure as Saturn, who had ruled over a lost golden age of peace and simplicity. This era was marked by order and structure, a kind of dreamless sleep for humanity that had to end so the soul could begin its heroic journey toward enlightenment. The Roman festival of Saturnalia famously honored him. During this time, social order was inverted, slaves became masters, and chaos briefly reigned. This ritual was a profound acknowledgement of Saturn's power, that all order must be tested, and that chaos always lurks beneath the surface. One of the most mysterious aspects of Saturn worship is its alignment with the number 6, and by extension, the hexagon and the cube. In Kabbalistic tradition, Saturn is associated with Binah, the third sphere on the tree of life, representing structure and form. Think of a snowflake or a beehive, perfect hexagonal structures emerging from formlessness. This is Saturnian wisdom embedded in nature. The ancients saw these patterns and understood that 6 was the number of physical creation. This is why Saturnian symbols, black stones, cubic altars, geometric perfection, were woven into the very blueprint of ancient temples, designed to harness Saturn's stabilizing force. The ancient Hebrews were also touched by this influence. The concept of Shabbat, the Sabbath, the seventh day of rest, is astrologically associated with Saturn, the seventh planet. Saturday, Saturn's day, became a holy day of stillness and reflection, a spiritual recalibration to feel the divine gravity that Saturn represents. Ultimately, the ancients both feared and revered Saturn. He was not the comforting sun or the gentle moon. He was the cold, distant master whose lessons were necessary. To those who resisted, he was a cruel tyrant. To those who embraced his trials, he became the most powerful of allies, a force that stripped away delusion and fortified the spirit. He was the cosmic judge, and his black cube was not just a container of karma. It was the throne upon which he sat, the altar upon which every soul is weighed. In our modern world, a world we're told is secular and rational, ancient symbolism hides in plain sight. The presence of the black cube is perhaps most unsettling because of how quietly and pervasively it surrounds us. It appears not just in dusty texts, but in real, physical places, a subtle continuity of Saturnian energy. Perhaps the most prominent and revered manifestation is the Kaaba in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. For billions of Muslims, it is the holiest site in Islam, the Qibla, the direction of prayer. While its meaning in Islam is unique and sacred, for the researcher of symbols, its form, a perfect, massive cube draped in black, resonates with a timeless, universal tradition. The cube as a cosmic anchor, a gateway between worlds. But the cube's presence extends far beyond religion. Consider the Alamo sculpture in Manhattan's Astor Place, a massive black box balanced on its corner. It's a seemingly benign piece of modern art, yet it evokes those same ancient Saturnian themes: form, solidity, permanence, and the unknowable. It's a weight in the urban landscape that feels almost alien. Similar installations appear in financial districts and government plazas worldwide. Why there? Because commerce, law, and memory are Saturn's domains. He governs systems, rules, and accountability. These cubes are silent, secular shrines to a force modern man claims to have forgotten, yet continues to serve. The corporate world is littered with this symbolism. Logos for tech companies, financial institutions, and defense contractors frequently use cubes and hexagons to project reliability, structure, and control. When rendered in black, they evoke mystery and dominance. Whether intentional or not, the archetype of Saturn lives through these designs. This obsession with cubic forms dominated 20th century architecture. Movements like the Bauhaus rejected ornate, organic structures in favor of the stripped-down geometry of concrete blocks and steel-framed boxes. This mirrored the increasing dominance of Saturnian values in the post-industrial world: control over nature, subjugation of spirit to system, and the triumph of time-regulated productivity. Our skyscrapers became massive cubes, modern temples of commerce where humans are no longer pilgrims, but workers and data points. The architecture itself reinforces conformity. It's the god Saturn, stripped of his mythic robes and dressed in a business suit. In Masonic symbolism, the cube is central. The rough ashlar is the unshaped, chaotic self. The perfect ashlar is the soul refined into a perfect cube through wisdom and labor. The question for the initiate is whether they will rise above form or be buried by it. More unsettling is the cube's appearance in places of mourning. The Holocaust Memorial in Berlin is composed of thousands of stark, gray, cube-like slabs arranged in a disorienting grid. The experience evokes the oppressive weight of history, a Saturnian echo of suffering. Even in pop culture, the cube recurs as a symbol of control. The Borg from Star Trek travel in massive black cubes, a hyper-rational hive mind that absorbs all individuality. It's the prison of the soul, reflecting our modern fear that systems and algorithms are erasing the individual. Yet, The black cube is not inherently evil. It is a mirror. It shows us what we have built, what we unconsciously worship, and what we secretly fear. It reveals that we are still invoking ancient powers, still building temples, even if we don't use those words. To walk among these symbols without awareness is to sleepwalk through life. But to see the cube with awakened eyes is to begin reclaiming your own spiritual agency. It's a riddle carved in stone, waiting for those with the courage to ask, what lies within the cube? And what happens when we finally decide to step outside of it? We now venture into the shadows, into the world of the occult. Here, symbols are not just motifs. They are keys, functional tools that unlock inner realities. And among them, the black cube holds a uniquely potent and unsettling place. To the esoteric mind, it is a coded message, a vessel of meaning that vibrates with the dense, heavy energy of Saturn, an energy that both imprisons and initiates. Occult traditions have always wrestled with one fundamental question: how does the soul awaken from its slumber in matter? The black cube is central to this, representing the soul's first and greatest obstacle, the prison of form. In Gnostic thought, the material world is a trap created by a false god, the demiurge, who encases spirit in flesh and illusion. The cube is the archetype of this enclosure, a geometric tomb where consciousness forgets itself. To awaken, one must confront the cube, understand its structure, and dissolve it from within. In alchemy, the cube corresponds to lead, Saturn's metal, the prima materia or base state of the soul. Lead is cold, heavy, and resistant, but it is the essential raw substance from which the gold of the perfected spirit can emerge. The cube must be broken down, purified through fire, and restructured in a higher form. It is not the enemy, it is the necessary beginning. This prison is also psychological. The Hermetic maxim, as above, so below, means the cube of the physical world is mirrored by the mental and emotional cages we carry within. It becomes our patterns of fear, shame, and repression, our unquestioned beliefs and cultural programming. To work with the cube is to begin the process of inner deconstruction, to examine the prison we live in and discover how we are complicit in our own captivity. Consider the story of a man named Marcus, living a good life but feeling an empty sense of being an actor playing a part. In a dream, he finds himself trapped in a seamless black cube. After panicking, he finally becomes still and notices faint, silvery patterns etched on the walls. He realizes these patterns are the shapes of his fears, his unresolved traumas, his need for approval. The cube is a map of his own psyche. As he recognizes and accepts each pattern, the lines glow brighter. He understands the prison and the key are one and the same. Pushing against a wall, he finds it dissolves into light, and he steps out into an infinite, starry expanse. He didn't escape the cube, he integrated it. Some teachings describe the cube as a hyperdimensional object, a tesseract, existing in both space and time. Its 6 sides are linked to the number 6, the number of humanity, of imperfection, of incompleteness. The 6 faces cover all of material existence, but the 7th direction, inward, is missing. To transcend the cube, one must go inward. In ceremonial magic, the cube is both a boundary and a portal. A magician might visualize a cubic space to create a symbolic microcosm of the universe, a laboratory of the soul where the laws of form can be temporarily suspended. The tarot reflects this too. The devil card shows figures chained to a black cube, representing unconscious bondage. The tower shows the cube shattered by divine lightning, allowing the soul to awaken. The world shows the cube integrated, the journey complete. Of course, there is a darker side. In left-hand path traditions, The cube is embraced not to be transcended, but to be mastered as a tool of dominion over others. Here, the power of order and structure becomes a tool of spiritual enslavement. Yet even this shadow use serves a purpose. It challenges the seeker to see through illusion. Ultimately, the cube is a test, a spiritual ordeal. As the sages knew, it holds the key to its own liberation. When unfolded, it becomes a cross, a symbol of sacrifice, but also of resurrection. The Black Cube stands at the center of occult wisdom not as a threat, but as a symbol of immense spiritual responsibility. To the unconscious, it is a trap. To the initiate, it is a tool. And to the master, it is the very ground of awakening. In recent years, a fascinating and deeply unsettling theory has gained traction, one that takes the symbolism of Saturn and the Black Cube into the realm of operational physics. It proposes that Saturn may be more than a planet. It might be a powerful cosmic transmitter, a generator of frequency, an actual architect of the matrix-like system we live in. At the heart of this mind-bending theory is frequency, vibration, and sound. Ancient spiritual traditions have long held that the universe is a vibrational field. The Hindu concept of Nada Brahma means the world is sound. If creation is vibration, then whoever controls the dominant frequency has the power to shape reality itself. Saturn has long fascinated astronomers. NASA's Cassini spacecraft recorded a deep, eerie, pulsating radio emission from the planet, a constant, complex signal. What if this isn't a side effect but a function? What if Saturn is broadcasting something into our solar system? This is where the idea of the matrix comes in. Gnostic traditions taught that our world is a simulation created by a false god. The theory that Saturn is the signal tower for this matrix aligns with this ancient idea with disturbing precision. It suggests Saturn broadcasts the frequency fence that keeps human consciousness locked into a limited perception of reality, a channel of fear, lack, and materialism. Supporters point to the most baffling anomaly in our solar system, the massive, persistent hexagon-shaped storm at Saturn's North Pole. In esoteric symbolism, the hexagon is a 2D projection of a 3D cube. This fuels the belief that the hexagon is a signpost for the planet's function in maintaining the prison of form. This storm might not be weather. It could be a massive antenna, a frequency generator influencing Earth's electromagnetic environment, and by extension, our own consciousness. Adding another layer is the theorized correlation between Saturn and our moon. This model suggests the moon acts as a relay station, a giant satellite dish. It receives the primary broadcast from Saturn, amplifies it, and beams it down to Earth. If this were true, waking up from the matrix would require not just spiritual insight, but a conscious shift in our personal vibration, learning to retune our inner receiver to a higher frequency. This brings us back to the Black Cube. In this model, the cube is the ultimate symbol of the frequency prison, a metaphysical antenna on Earth, a grounding point that resonates with the Saturnian frequency of control. And yet, any poison can be a medicine. Saturn's energy, while heavy, is also the source of mastery and discipline. Some believe his frequency is not a punishment, but an initiation, a test tone that vibrates the impurities out of the soul. Only by enduring its density can one attain the strength to move into higher states of being. Our increasingly digital world seems to mirror this, a further crystallization of consciousness into the virtual. The very design of many VR headsets is, disturbingly, a black cube strapped to the face, a symbol of how willingly we can embrace our own imprisonment. But not all is grim. This awareness is leading many to explore ways to raise their vibration through practices like sound healing, meditation, and breathwork. The goal isn't to escape Saturn, but to integrate him, to harmonize with his lessons without being enslaved by his limitations. In this view, he is the stern gatekeeper who tests the soul's readiness. He becomes a mirror, showing us exactly where we are trapped. The black cube, then, is revealed to be not a tomb, but a crucible, a sacred chamber where the soul either disintegrates under pressure or awakens into indestructible light. True spiritual liberation has never been about escaping the world. It's not a flight from suffering. It is a deep, transformative, and courageous confrontation with the very forces that seem to imprison the soul. The path to freedom leads directly into the heart of the cube, not around it. The walls of this cube are made from the illusions we haven't seen through, the fears we haven't faced, and the truths we haven't embodied. To break free is to awaken fully to the nature of our own self-imposed imprisonment. Liberation, therefore, begins with a single courageous act: awareness. It's the moment you begin to notice the invisible limits you've accepted without question, the beliefs inherited from family, the shame instilled by society, the unspoken agreements that keep you small. These are the psychological bricks of your personal cube, all mortared together with fear. Once this awareness dawns, a period of struggle often follows. The soul feels suffocated. The structures that once felt safe now feel like a cage. This intense discomfort isn't a punishment, it's a signal. It's a sacred alarm clock, telling you the soul is ready to move beyond its current limits. This process is never easy. Saturn allows no shortcuts. The spiritual warrior must begin the work of purification, identifying attachments, unraveling false narratives, and facing the hidden fears in the unconscious. This is the sacred work of shadow integration. Consider the parable of a kingdom surrounded by an impossibly high black wall. The people were told it protected them from monsters. For generations, they believed it. Then, a young woman was born who wasn't a warrior. Instead of fighting the wall, she simply sat with it, studied it, and came to a realization. The wall was not solid. It was made of the collective fear of everyone in the kingdom. Understanding this, she placed her hand upon it, and where she touched, the wall became transparent, revealing a beautiful world beyond. She hadn't destroyed the wall, she had integrated its lesson. One of the greatest tools on this path is inner stillness. Meditation and contemplation are ways to observe the mechanisms of the cube without getting trapped in them. In the stillness, the illusions unravel. Another tool is sacred discipline, a sustained, conscious effort. This isn't self-punishment, it's a devotion to truth, a daily commitment to remember who you are beyond the cube. With each disciplined act, a crack forms in the cube's wall. As light enters through these cracks, the cube no longer feels like a prison. It becomes a sacred temple, one that protected the soul until it was strong enough to stand in the light. This is the paradox. It both traps and prepares. Saturn is not just the jailer, he is the initiator. At this stage, the seeker steps into the archetype of the magician, one who consciously works with the forces of Saturn without being ruled by them. The cube becomes a stage for the divine self to express itself. Eventually, for the fully liberated master, the cube dissolves entirely. What remains is not a void, but a radiant, boundless field of being. This is true liberation, the full integration of spirit and form. The soul returns to the world not as a victim, but as a master, a living bridge between dimensions, rooted in the earth but illuminated from within by the stars. This is the liberation Saturn was always pointing toward. This is the awakening the cube was always hiding. The question is not whether you are in the cube. The question is, what will you do now that you know you hold the key?